And hello everyone, Céad Míle Fáilte, go Farmgate, Gurkig. We are delighted to be finally with you, and I really hope our cooking goes a little bit better than our technology. We've done a quick run around here, and hopefully all will go well now. We're very excited. I'm Rebecca, and this is my colleague Pamela Kelly, who's been head chef here for about 3 years. And what a chef she is. So I'm really delighted that we can be here with you tonight. I'm going to hand straight over to Pam because she's the expert, and I'll step back.
Well, I don't know about expert, but we've definitely been doing a lot of what we're cooking tonight over the last few weeks, getting ready for Christmas, getting things to preserve our cranberry compote and our mince meat, and making our mince pie for the restaurant, which just opened this week. But we've had a lovely little retail shop downstairs where we've been lucky enough to stay open. We've done some really simple recipes for you tonight that are really easy to make, but they're really good gifts as well, and they are a staple on our kitchen tables here. At Christmas time, with cranberries always going with the turkey and all of that, and the mince pies, you know, even if you don't like them, everyone will have a mince pie at Christmas. It's just the way it is. We are using brandy, and in the last 15 minutes we've nearly
Finished it.
The whole bottle of brandy, but we managed to stay away. I suppose it's all about what the Farmgate is about, is like Irish butter, free range eggs, well milled flour, and using ingredients that are really simple and not doing too much with them. So the recipes might seem quite easy, and I hope we get through them without any hitches. But it's about simplicity, and that's what we do here, and what people think we do well.
And also, I suppose, the fact that we're in our dining room here now in the middle of the market, it's suddenly gone quiet. All the stalls have turned off their lights downstairs, but during the day we go down, Pam goes down in the morning, and she walks around to all the stalls. She finds out what's best with the fishmonger, what's best in terms of meat, in terms of vegetables. She fills her basket, and then she comes back up, and that's our menu for the day. And likewise, everything we have here in front of us, we got downstairs. Some local bits, some bits are not so local for the mince pies, but it's still part of the tradition for over hundreds of years, actually. Mince pies, they became very popular in the 18th century. So they've been a staple on Irish tables since then.
Yeah. When we're going to do a short crust pastry that's really rich that we use here in the apple tart, which, in those things that Emer mentioned earlier, those critics who came, and they had that simple food of oysters and our lamb stew and the apple tart, 3 things which have been on the menu here for 26 years, and this is the pastry recipe. So we continue that kind of tradition through Christmas, bringing it from one dish to another and utilising the same ingredients and keeping those things going strong. So we might get started. Will we get started? What do you reckon? Yeah? Okay. So what we have is we're going to make the short crust pastry, and if you had your recipe and you were a really good student and you made it earlier today or another day and you popped it into the fridge, I'm going to show you the stage before that. And anyone who's got their pastry made already can sit and have a glass of wine or whatever your tipple is, and join in when we're rolling out. So in here we've got some plain flour, and we've got some Irish butter from Bandon in Cork. We use a lot of butter in Farmgate in all our recipes, even our potatoes, everything is dressed with butter. It's part of everything that we do, and the quality of it is superb here in Ireland, as a lot of you know. And if some of you don't, you'll soon find out if you come to visit us when all of this is kind of over. So what we do is we mix this to a fine breadcrumb stage. So this is how you'd start scones or any kind of pastry. Anything like that. It's the first part of all of this.
And your butter is nice and cold?
It should be cold, not too cold, as in, not from the fridge. Leave it out for a few minutes. It is hard to work through it, it does take a bit of time. If you have a food processor, even better, fine, just whiz it up. But we are in the dining room, we're not in the kitchen, so we're going manual, we're going old school.
And what kind of flour do you have in there?
We use We use many different types of local flours, like from Macroom and all of those kind of lovely mills that we have around. But I mean, at the moment, even after our second lockdown, I mean, the flour scarcity has been incredible because of all the home baking and everything. So we're even lucky that we have an amount of flour now to fit our needs, because there was such a shortage there for such a long time, you know. But this will probably take a little bit of time there. But this pastry, we have eggs in it. You can also do a really nice short crust without eggs, but the richness of the eggs and the softness of the pastry, which you'll see when we're rolling out, is it's really, really good, you know. And as it's Christmas, we'd use clementines or oranges or lemons or whatever you want to put into the pastry. We do, like, you know, it's nice to have that little bit of flavour, but you can leave it out as well. The butter is salted as well. I don't know if we wrote that in the recipe, but we use salted butter for almost everything, whereas a lot of our neighbours, our European neighbours, you know, Western and Eastern Europeans use a lot of unsalted butter. Yeah. So I probably should have done a bit of this before we came on when we were getting sorted.
So that's becoming a nice kind of breadcrumb almost now, isn't it? And
it is. It's nearly
breaking
there.
Down.
Nearly there. You know, and it is, you know, there can be little bits of lumps of butter in it. That's absolutely fine. When you're rolling it out, it's not a flaw in the pastry. It'll add to the different layers, just like when you're doing a flaky or a puff pastry. Those butter layers in between kind of, you know, make it nice and short, which is what we're doing here. So into this, we pretend that this is really fine breadcrumbs, a little bit finer than this. And we add in our sugar. Right. Dun. I don't know if you can see this on this camera here. But it's just, you know, you know when you're handling pastry that you just use the tips of your fingers. The palms should stay kind of nice and clean. Okay, so we've got 55 grams of caster sugar going in. No. And we're going to mix it around. And this recipe without the sugar as well is a really good savoury pastry. You could put in some fresh thyme or some kind of even dried herbs, whatever you kind of like. Or I worked with a chef before, and instead of one of the eggs, he put in a teaspoon of tomato puree, and to make a lovely tomatoey kind of pastry. It's really versatile. So we're just going to see that this is, the texture it should be is kind of more fine breadcrumbs. We're going to just rush through it a little bit by popping in the eggs. That's okay. So well in the centre, free range eggs from just downstairs. If you could see where we were looking at it.
Just a bowl for those.
Oh, very handy. Thank you, Mother. Very good. And of course you can mix this with, you know, your hands. Absolutely get it in there. But the nearest sink is pretty far away. So I'm going to do it with a spoon. Thank you.
Would you prefer a fork?
Oh, fork. Or you could do it with a fork. You can do it with a, you know, whatever you want. It's just to bring the pastry together. And we're putting in water. Now the recipe says 100 mils of water. At this time of year here, it does take all of that water. But I mean, just add it in bit by bit, and you'll know when it just comes together that it's ready.
So when we're doing this here in the cafe, we're making so much, we actually do it in a mixer.
Yeah.
In a very large mixer.
Yeah, to divide this recipe down for a household recipe was a task, you know. The calculators were out, you know. We do it usually by the 5 or 10 kilos at a time. But you can see it's quite a soft pastry. And I mean, you just bring it together. And in the food processor, this literally takes seconds. You just want to get it together and into a ball. I'm just going to add the zest of the orange in here at this stage. You could add the zest of the orange in at the stage when you're putting in the wet ingredients, but I like to add it in at the end. Okay. Right. Now. So zest of orange. You actually see citrus runs right through this. I think nearly every recipe that we've on the Christmas menu has some either orange or clementine or lemon or something in it. It's kind of what we turn to at Christmas here. I don't know, it's always what we've had growing up anyway. Yeah.
I think all these spices and, you know, smells, just, they signify Christmas, don't they?
They do, yeah. That's it. Oranges. You'd get oranges in your stocking, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, we used to get oranges in our stockings when we were small. Mandarins.
Mandarins.
They were a big deal back in the 80s.
Yeah, they would have been. I love now mandarin. Yeah, but you know, if you get your hands into this, you'll see it's quite a soft pastry. Thank you, Rebecca. It's quite a soft pastry, and that's why it's really important to kind of let it rest in the fridge. You can just bring it in if you split this into 2 balls of dough, or you can leave it in this bowl and pop it into the fridge. What's best is if you just take it out and maybe wrap it in a bit of plastic wrap or some cling film, and you know, leave it to rest. And it can be made a day or 2 or 3 or 4 in advance. We'd usually make it about 2 to 3 times a week here, and it's always good and you know, perfect from the fridge. So
I'll get you something for your hands.
We're going to pretend that this is all wrapped up nice and cling film, if that's okay, guys.
It's for your hands.
Oh, very good, thank you. The way we have it, we kind of keep it in a ball just like this. Here's one we made earlier, as they would say.
So that pastry now has gone to your fridge, and a minimum of 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'd say a minimum, absolutely, a minimum of 30 minutes. And this is the way we have it. It comes out of the, thank you, off the fridge like this.
You do have a pot of butter. I have it here for you.
Thank you. So we're just going to melt the butter to just to brush our tins with. So we flour the surface. Oh my goodness, putting flour on the dining room table. Oh my goodness. This is a first for sure. For me anyway. Have you ever baked in the dining room, Rebecca?
No, this is our first time. We did do, we cooked tripe and dressine with, I'm trying to think of the chef now, that wonderful English chef, local food heroes, Rick Stein.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, about 20 years ago, and that was out in where we were earlier.
Oh, where we were trying to zoom in from.
Yeah. I
tell you, we nearly would have had better luck, you know, teleporting there at that stage. I didn't think we were going to get this far. So we're rolling out. We're on the induction. We can just pop this down here. If you just pop it down, it might turn down a little bit. That's actually melted enough. You want to power it off just to get some butter melted. Roll it out. Right.
There goes a grand big bit of butter. Went flying.
Yeah. So you know, you can roll it out fairly thin. You know, I mean, or as thick as you like, really. You know, it's completely up to you. Julian's trying to get the brandy there. She's been trying to get it all evening. But we just use a regular kind of queen cake tin. We call them fairy cake tin. The smaller of the tins here.
And you've got your cutters here as well.
Right. So we're going to butter her up.
And you need this.
Thank you.
There you go. And I'll go to your other side.
And this is what I mean by butter. It's everywhere. We wouldn't get through half a day without it here. And you know, when you put the butter in it, I mean, you can use oil, you can use any kind of fat that you want, but the crispiness that it gives the outside of the mince pies and that lovely golden colour you get on the outside is all from the butter. All from the butter. So we're going to just fill them here now. We've got with this, and I'm going to take you through how we make the mincemeat. So we use a fairly big cutter. It looks a lot bigger than that, and we sink it into the pie case. And I'll line up these few, and then we'll make the mince to fill them. Now the mince, we made our mince in late July.
In lockdown.
We had a lot of time on our hands.
Yes. Yep.
We had a lot of time on our hands, so we got that done, and Christmas puddings and Christmas cakes and all sorts.
Well, you have those ready, do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where
the tray.
Oh,
the tray. You want to bring the
see.
tray in? Ah, okay. Great.
We're really learning. And we're going to cut out a few stars for the top. Just now while we have the pastry out. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, so we got it all made in lockdown.
But with the mince meat, I mean, it's better to have it done probably 2 to 6 weeks in advance, but you don't have to. That's just about allowing the alcohol macerate and work with the fruit. You know, it's a great one to get ahead, and it's a fantastic thing that you can do. But at the same time, it's not a big deal if you've made it a week before or a day before.
Yeah. So, but this recipe shows you how to be versatile and about versatility. So we're going to put in some dried cranberries instead. So, like, we hand chop up the apricots.
And that makes a big difference, I think.
It does.
Making your own dried fruit and cutting it up, I think it makes a lovely texture.
It does. And you know what? You could actually chop up the sultanas and the currants and everything. You can have it whatever texture you want. I do like it to be quite coarse, but I mean, you could throw a stone now and go to a couple of different cafes and restaurants around, and every single one of them is different. And it's
usually how their grandmother made it.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, so I mean, it's a versatile recipe. It's, you know, there's no real rules in it. Now it does have a lot of sugar, and even though there's a lot of sugar in the fruits, there's still a good whack of sugar in there. It helps the macerate get softer. Do it like this one here. I don't know if you've kind of heard of this this kind of brand. I'm not sure what you have over there at the moment or here. This is vegetable, but I mean, you can get a lovely beef suet from the butcher if you know him well enough, and he'll give you a nice piece of beef suet that's really clean, and it's a really good one. But we kept it vegetarian just to appeal to more people really here for ourselves. So, thank you, Rebecca. So in here we have our suet, we have our dried fruits, and we have rum. Can't believe that lasted the last half an hour there now we're sitting there. Orange juice and lemon juice. And I'm also going to put the zest of both of those in there as well. My oranges and lemons. Could I just get two?
Yep.
Oranges and lemons. I'm sure there's a song about it. So as much citrus as you like as well, you know, I mean, it's down to personal taste. And we'll leave the brandy there for a minute. And I mean, if I was to, well, I'll show you our mince meat that we have made a little while ago, and you'll see how it changes. And it'll change even after a few hours, you know. And you should put the zest of two oranges in there. Now, the first of our mince pies that we use almost every year, the first couple of trays on the 1st of December, are from the mince meat from the year before. Excuse me. That's how long it lasts. It's really, really, really good. Okay, zests are in. These are going to go back here. And brandy. I think it's 50 mils or something in the recipe. But what we do, we soak it, but maybe a little bit more. We soak it for a week or two, and the sugar kind of settles on the bottom, and we hand mix it, like really get it in there in our big batches that we have. And then if it looks a bit dry or it looks a bit like it needs a bit of love, we go and get another bottle of brandy from the dining room and put it in there, you know. And
so what kind of a container are you keeping it in?
Well, you can keep it in anything that you can kind of close a lid on. Yep. You know, just for the first while, and really let it kind of, you know, come together. But what I would do now is we would leave that overnight, and if you wanted to jar it, or even for a few days, like you're soaking your puddings or you're soaking your Christmas cakes, leave it for a few days. And then if you're going to put it into a jar, say that you're going to sterilise, so you clean your jar, put your jar into the oven at about 100 degrees for about 15-20 minutes. Allow your jar to go cold, and then you spoon your mixture in and you close your jar. And then you just either put your jar into a pot of boiling water and bring it up to the simmer, and it will seal. Or what we do here, which you can do at home as well, is put it into your dishwasher. So you put it into your dishwasher, and it kind of creates that vacuum inside the jar, and it's really, really handy. So you can see it's quite liquidy, but I'll show you what we have here now. So these are our jars of mince that we have, and this is what I'm going to fill the mince pies with, because this will need to
At least
rest.
2 weeks. Yeah.
At least 2 weeks, but I mean you could leave it rest even for a few hours. So we put about this quantity, which is like about 2 teaspoons, into it, because they will kind of jam up and they'll go nice and sticky. And into the oven, they only take 12 to 15 minutes. You don't have to bake them blind. You don't have to bake this pastry first. This pastry is raw, and that butter that you have on the outside of it really helps to crisp it up, so you don't have, it's not going to be soft or soggy or anything like that. Oh. A lot of people would cut, you don't have to do stars or anything like that, but I mean you could do a little bit of a crumble maybe on top. Like say that's that pastry that we were doing at the start, without adding in your eggs, just take the butter, the flour, the sugar, maybe even the zest of the orange or a lemon, and just to crumble that on top, is a nice alternative. Or you can completely close them as well. This is also lovely if you mix it with some nice apples, and you could make one big tart, or
do a nice lattice on top.
Oh, nice lattice, exactly. Yeah, like all your nice.
For the audience, what degree is the oven on?
180.
180 is kind of our general, our general cooking thing for most things here, because.
And I think I suppose it always depends on the oven that you have at home, because every oven is different. I mean, 180, preheat it, 180, and then you're checking after probably about 12 minutes, you're keeping an eye on them.
Yeah.
But, you have to be careful. You have to know your own oven.
Yeah,
Every oven
true.
has kind of got its own little kind of quirks, doesn't it?
It does. You don't want it to be too hot, because you want your pastry to be cooked. And as well as that, if it's not hot enough, if you do it at 60 or gas mark 3 or whatever that is, then they become really limp and they just won't crisp up. So we do this. We can egg wash them if you like, and put them in. Maybe brush them with egg. You can sprinkle a little bit of sugar. I mean, it's completely up to you. And they, as we said, 12 to 15 minutes.
I have another question from the audience.
Yep.
Can this pastry be used also for minced ground meat?
No. I mean, it could be if you were to leave out the sugar.
Yep.
It would be.
For minced ground meat, I think, you wouldn't want a sweet pastry with a kind of a more savoury pie.
And I mean, for a short crust pastry to hold the pie, what you'd always recommend, the water is really good at stabilising it and make it a tougher crust. But I mean, you'd probably want to heat up that water and add it into your pastry, and what we call a hot water crust. And you'd probably want it a bit shorter, so you might need some more butter. I don't think it directly transfers to a meat pie. It's more kind of like for a quiche or for something like that you could
if you took out the sugar, then you could use it. Yeah, for a lovely savoury tart.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really good for like lemon tarts or any custard tarts or anything like that. But minced beef, I probably wouldn't use it. No, I wouldn't. So let's see. Where are we? So here's one we made earlier. Okay. So they come out of the oven. Now these were out of the oven a little bit after a little while ago. And we popped them out, and what we just served them with is softly whipped cream. I bet you there's some in the fridge over as well. I could get some nice softly whipped cream, because we'd like to eat some of these too now. They're really good.
And at home, I think, well, certainly when we're at home, we always add a little bit of whiskey to the cream, and that's the way my dad likes it. Yeah, so I think that's maybe more of an adult version. A lovely bit of Jameson whiskey through the cream is quite nice.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
And sometimes people sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar over them, but we keep them plain here because we think they're sweet enough, and the pastry is so lovely. And the sugar in the fruit is so beautiful as well.
It is, yeah, that's it. No, they're really nice when they're just lovely and plain. But we're going to do this. So this is what we would say, like we wouldn't have turkey without cranberry sauce. And you can make so many different variations of a chutney or cranberry sauce, but I mean, we keep ours really simple. I mean, we don't grow cranberries here very well, but I mean, it is still something that is, every household would have it. And it's the same, it's the quintessential kind of thing that goes on the table. As most of you know, because most of you have probably had a very traditional Irish dinner before, some of you definitely have anyway. So we're just going to put these in here and keep them into a pot that's over a moderate heat. We're on induction here, so this is technical thing. We're usually on gas inside. We do have an induction one too. We're getting used to it as well. So I'm just going to pour them in, and into that then we pop some sugar. Fantastic, and it's a lot of sugar. And you know what? It might even take more sugar than this, depending on your taste, because they are so sour.
I think in Europe we keep it a little bit more bitter, whereas in the US, cranberry sauce can be quite sweet.
Yeah.
But we keep it quite sharp, which I think is lovely with meats.
It is, yeah. I mean, we keep it definitely quite nice. Zest. And some juice.
So you've done all this by eye. So what did we have in our recipe? So in our recipe that we sent you, we said to have a kg of fresh or frozen cranberries, 500 grams of caster sugar, 2 cinnamon sticks, a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, and the zest and juice of 2 oranges.
That's right.
So you've done all of that beforehand.
Well, I've done all of that. I brought out some nutmeg, and see, with the cherries, the cinnamon sticks ran away with the cherries earlier, so I've got some ground cinnamon. It's just about for the flavour. I do think cinnamon sticks are much nicer, but ground cinnamon is also lovely. And a quarter teaspoon of that is right, and I'm going to do the zest of the other one. I mean, you can spice it up as you like. Some people just want to leave it really simple. Or you could pop some onions in there and start it like that as well if you wanted to make it a little bit more savoury. Oh, she's really burning now. Yeah. We're going to give it a stir. This is steam, not smoke. It's all good. So you can cook it down, and I mean, you can cook it down low and slow for as long as you like, but this can be a really quick compote that you can eat straight away. Or as we were talking about earlier, if you want to sterilise a jar and pop it in there. Or even in an airtight container that you can decorate really nicely is really good. Yeah. And some juice. And I mean, we'd love to stay and keep going all evening. What happens here in the market is that we get locked in. We don't own it.
But due to technical issues earlier, we are now on a countdown, and you're going to see us speed up, and we're going to be like 2 crazy little cartoon characters while we kind of zoom through this like road runners.
So, I mean, if there is any questions as we're doing it, I mean, we'd love to hear them. If there's anything. I mean, our cranberry sauce, we have this with ribbon. We've only like 6 jars left.
From the audience. The question is, have you water in your cranberries?
I don't. No.
No water in our cranberries. You could add it, certainly if the pot was sticking a little bit too much. But if your pot is on a moderate heat, you're literally letting all of the lovely juices in the cranberries and your oranges break everything down. You're giving it the odd stir, you're keeping an eye on it, leave it there for half an hour, 40 minutes, and just kind of keep it moving so it doesn't stick. But water, I think, is one of those, it's one of the most fantastic ingredients in a kitchen, and people should use it more. Just popping a bit of water into a sauce, into a stew, it really helps, move it. And
or even like when we're frying fish and we do that, we do lovely skin and stuff, and you pop and turn it over, just a bit of stock or a bit of water in there as well. It's the same thing. It really poaches and brings it to life. If you did add water into it, I would suggest that you add in some lemon juice and or some lemon, to get that pectin, to get it kind of to come to a compote stage, because otherwise it can be quite liquidy. or you just need to cook it out much longer. But it would make it go further as well. But I mean, I do think...
Just tip that in there so that they can see in the camera. There, it's getting, you can see they're starting to break down, and it's starting to get that lovely, beautiful kind of gelatinous and kind of silky texture. When did you make our cranberry, Pam?
First batch we probably made in start of September.
Start of September,
Yeah.
okay. So it's all about getting ahead.
Yeah.
Question from the audience?
Mm-hmm.
What are your favourite foods for Christmas at the Farmgate?
Ooh. Favourite foods for Christmas in Farmgate? Spice beef, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't talk about Christmas in Cork without talking about spice beef.
Yeah.
And just below us here, all the different butchers will all have their own secret recipe that's handed down through generations, and they won't part with it for anyone.
Oh, it's really competitive.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Yeah.
And actually, I think having that on Christmas Eve, when we're really tired after a long day here, lots of us go home and we'll have, you know, just a little bit of ham, a bit of spiced beef, some cranberry compote, a mince pie, a glass of champagne, and that will be a Christmas Eve supper for us, because we probably don't get home till about 8 o'clock at night. But in the restaurant, I mean, what we're cooking this year, we're doing the very traditional turkey and ham, but we're also doing some other kind of lovely dishes for Christmas as well. We're doing...
Well, we've got the venison, we've got venison that, I mean, it's
in season.
And it's wild venison, which is really good, because a lot of our game birds, because of the restrictions we're under now, are not available, but the venison is superb. It's like literally below our feet, the only place in the market you can get it. And Gwen is butchering venison like there's no tomorrow in the last while.
And you've lovely duck liver pate on with Longville brandy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, pate is something that, you know, you can't make enough of it really. Like it's
smoked salmon.
Yeah, smoked salmon. And we're really lucky that we have, we've got 3 different smoked salmons in the market. Yes?
We have another question, and this one, this is from the Irish ambassador, and she would like to know, when was the Farmgate established?
So Farmgate was established, the original Farmgate was established over 30 years ago by Morogo O'Brien, who's an aunt of mine, and that was in Middleton, in just east of the city. And then 26 years ago, my mum Kay came to the market and opened the cafe. So it's been a bit of a sister act, and they're both not quite retired. They drop in and out, and then they keep us on our toes. But we're going that long, over 30 years.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah, really is.
So,
I mean, we're kind of...
For our recipe, do we need to do anything else now?
We need to, well, no, this is pretty much all it is. I mean, I suppose we changed things up a little bit in our running order, that we got a little bit ahead of ourselves because we thought we were really, really short on time. I know we are. But no, this should be just sitting and simmering for another, 15, 20, 25 minutes, as low as you can. And to pot it into jars or in an airtight container, and when it's cold, pop it into the fridge. It'll last for the next 6, 8, 10 months, It's really...
At the moment, we're using our cranberry with a lovely chicken sandwich with stuffing.
Yeah.
And it'll go on our menu for Christmas here in the restaurant. And then we're all going to bring it home.
Yeah.
Another question.
I have 2 more questions. My first question is from Grania Mackin. She thanks you very much for the cooking lesson, and she would like to know, what would you suggest for a starter instead of prawn cocktail? She has a brother who's allergic to shellfish. She does have a brother who's allergic, and I know Grania Mackin. So hello, Grania in Dundalk, and thanks for calling in. So I would suggest maybe trying out your brother with the prawn cocktail, and just to really test, does he have that allergy? But if you don't feel like doing that, I would suggest that you buy some beautiful duck liver pate with Longville brandy from Pamela Kelly here in Cork. Or you could purchase some spiced beef, or give him a little bit of smoked salmon. You could try that with him or indeed some soup. Never fails, a lovely soup. Okay, I have another question here. This is from Barbara. Obviously, she's very interested in the history of the Farmgate, but she'd also like to know a little bit more about the history of the market.
Sure. So we're in the English market and we're in the Princes Street end at the moment. So the English market was set up in 1788 by Cork Corporation, and it was following the trend of covered markets that became very popular in London and across the UK. And from the very outset, it was meant to be a stylish market for the wealthy Cork people. It was inside the city walls. The Cork Corporation was controlled by the Protestant class at that time, and that's why it became known as the English market. There was another market not so far away from here called St. Peter's Market on Cornmarket Street, and that's where the poorer kind of Catholic inhabitants of the city went to shop. And I suppose Cork became really important in the 18th century in terms of provisions because we have such an incredible harbour. We were able to, here in Cork, huge big fleets, naval fleets, were able to take shelter in the harbour, and then we would stock all the boats with corned beef or salt beef, with butter, with pork, and we sent provisions all around the British Empire as far as the West Indies. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else I need to add to that? Well, another question.
That actually leads on from what you just mentioned about shipping all around the world, because Giovanni wants to know, do you ship to Europe, in particular Budapest? He's obviously very impressed with your cooking.
Oh, well, not yet. We're hoping to do that next year. We haven't gotten through all of the, I suppose, the technical difficulties of sending food around. But our next move here in the cafe is to talk to Board Bia and to see how we might be able to send our products around, certainly around Europe and maybe even around the world.
Okay, so I'm pretty conscious we're running out of time. Will we do one more question and then wrap up?
So we'll take one more question. I'm going to leave Pamela answer it.
Okay.
I hope I know the answer.
Actually, do you know what? I'm going to give you two questions, Pam, because I think they're pretty easy, right? The first one is turkey or ham for Christmas dinner? You can't say both.
Oh, turkey, yeah. Once a year, come on. You can
once a year, exactly. Once a year.
Good quality turkey once a year.
Okay. Brine it.
Yeah,
brine it.
Brine it. Oh yeah, we never spoke about that. Brine it.
And the second question, right, is from Juno Brownlee, who's aged 11. She wants to know, what's your favourite thing to eat on the Farmgate menu?
Ooh.
Well, I know what Rebecca's is, right? Because we're running out of them.
Chocolate tiffin puddings.
Chocolate biscuit cake.
Actually, I just want to say a big hello to Juno Brownlee because she's my goddaughter. So hello, Juno Brownlee in Dublin, and thank you for calling in tonight.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
What is your favourite thing on the menu?
Lamb's liver and bacon, hands down. Always has been.
Irish lamb stew.
There we go.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Bye, folks. We have to run because the security guards are going to hunt us out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And apologies, but we really enjoyed ourselves. And any questions, you've got an email. You can email us and ask us anything you like.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, folks.